it really got me thinking about loyalty and how loyalty works. And back to Chateau Hartis, Chateau Hartis was this quote that he would say all the time. He was like, loyalty only goes so far as your options, right? Women are only loyal as far as their options. The more options they have, the less loyal they will be, and men should be the same way. I was like, you know what? Yeah, that's exactly how it works. People are loyal depending on the options they have. And why were like proletarians loyal to fucking Soviet Russia with all its misery and oppression? Because they had nothing else to do. They had no other options.
We might have actually, dude, I think we just cracked it, Sela. So we've had this like ongoing thesis on the podcast, basically, that an increased efficiency of markets tends to just destroy humans' enjoyments of the market. And we know that this is true observably, right? Like if you have a dating market that is hyper efficient, you can go on Tinder and you can swipe and find like 8 million people who are plus or minus like 2% of like whatever your algo ranking is. Everyone instantly wants to kill themselves. But like, this is the explanation for that, right? Is if optionality is the inverse of loyalty, we've now basically removed loyalty from society. Like it can't exist. If everyone has enough options and there's a system that provides everybody with like both the workplace liquidity and the like the romantic liquidity that they need for everything, then just no one is loyal to anything. Yes. Which means you can never trust anything, right? Like if you can't be loyal, you can't trust anything. So like everything is a rug now. You have to.
Well, it's just optionality is like actually that. Like optionality, like anything else, like there should be more than one woman in your village, right? So that way, if the only one who's there has some massive problem, you can go marry someone else. But if there's like 10 million women in your proverbial quote unquote village, like your actual realistic dating pool, it is now like incredibly difficult to, right? It's like the secretary problem where it's like there's some, optimal search. And obviously like this is very theoretical, but there's an optimal percentage of the sample that you go through in order to find the best secretary. Welcome to the Plausibly Deniable experience with Lucas, my beautiful, majestic looking co-host, and myself, your goofy penguin avatar. Okay. The goofy anonymous penguin. Brought to you by our sponsors, Polymarket, Zcash, Citizen X, and Passage Press. We love our sponsors, don't we, folks?
We do. And also now, I have to shill this now. We have bonus episodes on the Substack. I'm supposed to be the harsh shill I'd with. Yes, this is how you convert, right? If you put it at the end, nobody listens. You have to, at the very beginning, you have to say, bonus paid content on the Substack. Subscribe now, $10 trillion.
Bonus content. If you don't listen, we have to pressure people. We have to say like, we're talking about you. It's like the way your friends pressure you into a hangout. Like, we are all going to hate you if you don't come. We're talking about you. But yes, we have Spandrell, who's rejoined. We're doing a little intro. Sometimes we hit the intro like halfway through the episodes just because we like to get into the flow a little more now.
We have to stop doing that, by the way.
Yeah, we do have to stop doing that. But Spandrell is one of these brilliant people who's been blogging for a long time. You'll hear now, it'll get spliced, but some great stories about like early blogging. I actually want to talk about that a little, about like blogging to zero people in the audience, because I want to start writing more long form. I've been trying really hard. It's very difficult because you get so much of the dopamine that you could get from a blog post, from a tweet.
It contains like 80% of the message, but just has
10% of the effort
and times less words and effort. Also, by the way, I asked Codex. I was like, Spandrell, we're having him on the podcast. What can you rustle up for me? And dude, it does a shockingly good job. Like, you are out there, man.
Okay.
We know everything about you. It starts off with it actually starts off talking about like the IQ shredder stuff, which is interesting because like I'd heard the term IQ shredder a bajillion times, but I apparently had contextually reconstructed what it was completely wrong. So I mean, you can explain it if you want to, but it was saying that music. Go for it.
There's a funny backstory to that. So this was 2012, and I had just moved to China, to Shanghai, and I had just started blogging like a year previous, right? And when you start blogging, like nobody knows you. It's kind of niche. You feel you're like talking to the air. But slowly, kind of, more or less start to make a name in the near reaction scene, as it was known back then. And then Nickland comes out, right? Nickland makes this huge splash with the Dark Enlightenment, and he like goes right wing, and he was living in Shanghai. So I was right there. I sent him an email. Would you like to meet for drinks? And we can talk about this stuff. I don't think you have many other near-reactionary people around. He was, yeah, sure. I was like, oh wow, dude. I didn't know about the guy at all. I mean, I wasn't a leftist Deleuze reader back in the day, but I knew he was famous and he was one of us. So I thought it would be cool to meet. So we meet in Shanghai, and great guy, super nice, polite, down to earth, very English gentleman-y type. And we're there drinking and talking serious stuff. And I felt like an intellectual in the cafes of Vienna. Felt really cool for once, instead of just shit posting on the internet. And we started talking stuff, and he had this idea back at the time that like cities were the future. That capitalism was coalescing in these like huge capitalist centers like Shanghai or Singapore, and the future would be that it would be semi-independent, and the countryside was just be like enslaved by these big capital cities. He thought like Singapore was the future. He was really enamored by Singapore. And thing is, he lived in China for a long time, but he didn't speak Chinese, which I did. And I've never lived in Singapore, but I'd been there, I knew the place, and I always thought it was the lamest place ever. It was this super boring, lame place, nothing going on, no influence, no intellectual anything. I was like, really? Singapore's future?
I think we just talked about this.
I was, this again, great guy, but it was like, I don't think you know what you're talking about. I was really wanting to find something to argue against it. And I go back home, and I just read this interview by Lee Kuan Yew, who was alive at the time. And he said that, how successful Singapore was, how rich they were. And he was saying that, Japan was doomed because they didn't have kids. So the real estate prices were going down and blah, blah, blah. And I got really angry because I used to live in Japan, and I like it much more than I like Singapore. And that's how I came with the accurate share. I wrote a post, which I think is Lee Kuan Yew. I don't know the title. I mean, it's a 20.
You is a retarded idiot.
Not quite that, but I was like Harry. Again, I call him Harry Lee because that's what he used to go by before he was president. Anyway, I wrote a post about that. I was like, Singapore is this place which only has a birth rate of like 0.7, and it only sustains itself because it attracts smart immigrants from China, and then it just puts them in the rat race. They just work themselves to death, and they don't have any kids. So the thing that makes them valuable, right? The IQ genetic material that they have is shredded in order to make Lee Kuan Yew's real estate prices go up. Yeah. So, I mean, Nick Land's idea that the future was Singapore was like, how can there be any future if you're just shredding the good stuff, right? Eventually, they're going to run out of it. I mean, China's a big place. There's a lot of good IQ genes, but if Singapore keeps shredding them and getting the smart people and making them unable to have kids, well, that's not going to work long term. And that's how I came up with the accurate share.
Yeah, and I think the concept basically has now been generalized to pretty much every city, right? Like if you want to think about the net effect of San Francisco on the human race.
Oh, it is.
Like we've attracted all of the best and brightest minds in the world to this one city, and then immediately nuked their fertility rate down to like -0, right?
Yeah.
Like, so.
No, and I was a bit unfair to Singapore because the birth rate of Singapore is higher than Shanghai these days, and not any lower than any big city in Asia, and more or less the same as any big city in the West by now.
So it's not that
I don't think the criticism like applies like specifically to Singapore more so than any other place, but it is just like literally every city has this effect, right? And like you can argue over like, oh well, this city has like a 0.2% higher TFR than this city, but like does it
big deal,
matter in the end? Like they're all going to 0.
Yep. Yeah, it's not good.
So I don't know. It was when I read about the actual meaning of this concept, I was kind of horrified because like we've been having our own existential thing on this podcast for a little while where we're like, what are you supposed to do? Like, what does anything mean? How do I feel anything?
It's
Yeah, I mean, to his credit, Nick Land did take the criticism seriously, and he wrote a post on it. And I do think I had some influence in his thinking afterwards. And, it's been a long time since, and, Trump happened and the vibe shift and whatever. But the one thing that there's really nobody has any idea how to fix is the acroshredder, is the birth rate. We're still shredding the most valuable genes that make everything valuable that we have, and nobody has any idea how to fix it.
And it would appear that it's literally like every single country in the entire world is doing this also. Like you can say, oh, it's because of this factor. And then it's like, but there's another country that isn't doing that factor and they're also going to zero, right? And it's like literally every single social factor right now is just saying like, okay, TFR goes down.
There's one country that not. Only one.
Which
Israel.
one?
Israel.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that true? I've heard that that's not
It is.
true, actually.
It's going up. And I mean, people say that it's because of the Haredim, the Hasidic weirdo Jews, but it's not
so
all.
for context here for the podcast, in Israel, there's like normal-ish people who are just Israeli Jews, but they have technology, whatever. And then there's like the settler, ultra Orthodox Jews that don't use technology. They have the weird hairstyles, etc. But the ones in Israel specifically look very Middle Eastern. And then these guys, I think historically the birth rate was up there, right? It was like on par with the Amish.
Yeah.
It's like
it still
5
is.
or 6, like
It still
really,
is, I think.
really high.
Yeah, I think it still is. Again, the men don't work, and they're subsidized by the state to not work. So they're all on welfare, basically.
What?
Yeah, like the guys.
They're all basically on welfare.
Yeah, and
It's like very slightly more convoluted than this, but yes, like they all get paid to like study the Torah, right, or something.
that here, and they have like 6+ kids each. But again, even the secular Jews in Israel, I guess because of the sense of competition, like they have to keep up because they don't want to lose their country to those guys. I think it's still 2+, so they are reproducing themselves.
Yeah, so this is another thing that's like lost on people who are just in America, but there's like a pretty big political divide inside of Israel between like the secular Jews and the ultra-Orthodox Jews, where the ultra-Orthodox ones are like the more bloodthirsty ones, but they're also the ones that like they don't have to fight any wars or anything. So it's super funny. It's like if imagine if all like the heartland chuds in America were like chanting like Modern Warfare 2, like American Empire, but then only the libs had to go fight the wars.
Imagine the Amish were like 30% of the population, and they were like that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But I don't want to contradict you too far, and I'm not that confident about it, but I'm fairly sure that the rate has gone down for them. Is the Amish rate down too? I've heard that the Amish rate is down as well.
I know the
Mormon
Mormon.
one.
I know the Mormon rate is down a lot. I don't know about the Amish.
The Mormons were kind of the last hope, right? It was like the last
Yeah, they were above 3 like 5 years ago, but I think now they're like hovering about 2, and they're like they're gonna go below 2 like within 5 years for sure.
It's rough, dude.
So do you think it's even possible to maintain like an actual, like, I mean, even at this point, above replacement TFR in any sort of modern large country? Like, could America do it? Because it's very different to say like Israel has a positive TFR than it is. It's like saying like, oh, Greenland has a positive TFR, right? It's like you have 100,000 people. You can actually at this point just go like have like 100 infantrymen go door to door and like point guns at husbands and wives and say like, you must reproduce, and that will improve it.
That's part of what happens in Israel.
But there's the thing, like America still has a higher birth rate than Europe, and people say it's because you have more land, right? You have bigger houses. It's just easier in general. And sure it is, but Israel doesn't have a lot of land. Israel is a very small country. Everybody lives in small apartments, and they still have, 3 kids on average, 2 for the normal people. I have Israeli friends, and they're not ultra-Orthodox, they're just normal people. And they have 3-4 kids each. It's part of the culture.
Do you think that unironically the sense that Israel, like a lot of Israeli media and a lot of the sense of what Jewish people feel is like, we are under constant assault, like our people are being slaughtered, like they're trying to kill us. Do you think this makes people more likely to just reproduce like crazy? Because if somebody told me that, like if somebody was constantly, I mean, think about white nationalists also, right? Like white nationalists consume a bunch of rhetoric about how like it's over for you, you're dying, your people are being killed, and then the result is they're all like, I have to have a bunch of kids. Like I have to do it right now, right?
I do think it's a thing. I like look at when Afghanistan has the highest birth rate out of Africa, right? I think it's like 6 or 7. And when people tell them, when they do interviews to these like peasants in the countryside, they talk to women. Oh, my boys will die in the war, but I will have more. And they're like, I need to have all these babies because we're in constant like clan warfare, and the only way that my family is gonna survive is that if I Zerg rush, right? I need to rush my troops, and I need to produce more soldiers. And it's a really crass way of putting it. But if you look at China, and China now has apocalyptic birth rate, it's like 0.8. It's on some places have 0.4. Nobody's having kids. The whole thing is hopeless. And within historical memory, the Chinese were having like 7 or 8 kids each. Even in places like Singapore. Like Singapore, like people were having 7 kids just before independence. And what happened? And back in the day, the Chinese didn't think themselves as this unitary nation or whatever. They had all these clans, and clans were constantly fighting each other, right? And you couldn't trust anyone. This whole thing about high trust societies, I mean, that's good because it's pleasant. But if you have a low trust society where everyone is out to get everyone else, and your family is always in danger of just getting like completely murdered and whatever, the only way that you can sustain your family status and prosperity and lives is to Zerg rush, have a bunch of kids, and hopefully one of the 10 kids you have will amount to something, and we'll get to the government and will protect you.
Well, there's also an issue where like the kids require much more investment. Right now, like if you're in the Bay Area, and you're budgeting for a kid, this means even if you just get one room for one kid, okay, one room for one kid, which God knows, like very few kids are sharing a bedroom in the Bay Area in San Francisco or in California or in like coastal or urbanite America at all, right? That's like immediately you don't want to send them to any of the public schools, right? We all know why. So number one, that's like at least $20,000 a year, basically. Like that's like for an upper middle class or lower upper class, however you want to divide it, that's $20,000 a year. That's like another $500,000 in home equity for an extra room, right? And then college prices. I think nowadays some parents have stopped really caring about college because they're like AI or whatever. Things have gotten so out of control also that people feel like it's going to break by the time
thing that I'm increasingly hearing from a lot of people who have a lot of money is I'm going to get my kid accepted into like the Ivy, and then they're going to go for 1 semester, and then they're going to meet everyone they have to, and they're going to drop out. If you just give people money, like if I give you $5,000 to have kids, who has kids now? Like, it's not like you or me, right? It's like, it's someone who's like, $5,000, bro. Like, I ain't never seen this in my bank account. Like, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah,
that's why I've always said it should be like a tax write-off. Like, it should be a percentage. So I've always said, this is like my policy thing has always been, per kid, you should get a multiplicative 10% decrease on your tax bill. So your first kid is 10% off your tax bill. Your second kid is 9% off your tax bill. And so like it's a decreasing, right? Because it's multiplicative.
Yep.
But like it needs to be a percentage of the money you make. Because otherwise, you're like
right, because otherwise
your IQ shredding on one end and you're like retard maxing on the other.
Exactly.
Right?
You're getting, if you give cash handouts, you get the wrong people to have kids, right?
Yes. Because it's not just about the fact that like raising like a kid for like an upper middle class person takes a lot more money than anybody else, than like most other groups. And like also the upper middle class kid takes pretty much the same amount of money as like a truly upper class kid. Like not a billionaire level, but like right below, like a decamillionaire or like a very low centimillionaire is not spending significantly more money on their kid than like the normal upper middle class coastal urbanite.
Right.
In fact, I would say that like a flyover, someone the other day called this group of people like local maximums. This is like the guy who lives in Louisiana and owns like 20 car dealerships, or the guy who has like the big waste management company in some like tier 2, tier 3 city in America. Like these people actually probably waste a lot less money than like a journalist couple that makes like $220K a year in New York. Like these people probably actually waste way less money than that couple does on their kids.
Yeah.
I mean, people say that kids cost a lot of money, and they don't. I mean, they don't have to. There's this friend of ours, I guess, Wolf TV, the guy who used to run Palladium, and he lives in SF, I think, or in the Bay Area, which is the most
we met him for a bit.
yeah, which is the most expensive place in the world, and he's not making AI money. He's like a word cell, and he has like a bunch of kids. He was always writing about, the kids don't need their own rooms. You don't need to spend not that much money in kids, and it is true. And again, yeah, sure, in America you don't want to take the kids to public school, but that's not a factor in Japan, say, or in China at all. Like there's no problem in the public schools are great, but nobody's having kids either. People spend money because, I mean, you have the kid there, and you tie up yourself into thinking that you have to just be aesthetic and do everything for your kids. Because, if one woman is being annoying and just being super aesthetic and spending everything on the kids, all the other women feel inadequate. And
Exactly what I was going to say is I think America has this like unique cabal of like women that screech. Like if you have,
it's not unique at all. It's not unique at all. It's everywhere, man.
It's unique and then it's uniquely empowered, I think, right? Because there actually is.
Yeah,
like,
nowhere else is it empowered, I will say, or not to the same extent, certainly.
No, it's bad all across the Western world and across the civilized yellow world. I would say it's the same everywhere. And you really don't have
like a farmer's mentality with this, right? Where like if the kid falls and he scrapes his knee, I'm just like, yeah, it's fine, dude. Like, it's not like, and then they'll be like, dude, he has to go to the hospital. Like, how do we know he didn't fracture his like patella?
Back to what Sailor was saying, of course, giving more status to men, like artificially or whatever, that's the best solution. That would actually work like really well. But that's politically impossible in the Western world and the Eastern world. So that's not going to happen. As for what governments can do in, within what's politically possible, cash handouts, again, we don't want to do because the wrong people end up having kids. Tax write-outs are a good idea, but
probably politically unfeasible. Like whenever you require like 110 IQ to explain why a policy is the right policy, it just doesn't work.
I mean, it isn't.
The idea of tax write-offs is not something you cannot even explain deductions to people, really. You cannot explain.
Hungary was doing something similar, right? Hungary was doing something like that. I think it was wrong because it was giving the write-offs only to women. So if a Hungarian woman have 3 kids, she didn't pay any income tax. But no, it has to be the guy. It has to be the man, right? And
yeah, it has to be the man. There's like no other way.
Again, the thing with tax write-offs do like assume that people think that far in the future. And yeah, if you're married and you have 2 kids,
but I think specifically the upper middle class, which are like the people that get shredded the most because they compare themselves to the lower upper class because they inhabit the same kind of spaces. Right. I think specifically these people get owned by the planning a lot because they are looking so far ahead and they are like, how am I going to, like they're trying to keep up in spending with people who have literally 10 times as much capital as them.
Exactly.
Right. And so it's very difficult for these people to spend less. It's not like the hospital. It's just that calculus of like, okay, I'm in America. I need to send my kid to private school. So I need to give him like I need to budget $10,000 a year until this kid is like 22 years old, effectively. And that's like on the lower end, probably. And that's just education costs, right? And then, yeah, it's a lot of what you said, like the mommy group chat. Someone bought their kid like a super cute onesie that's like the latest fashion instead of being like, hey, grandmother, like, do you still have my clothes from when I was like a little baby? Like, I think this is where you can save a lot of the money is like, yes, your kid will wear shoes that are slightly too big or slightly too small.
You just have to
Or
be
yes.
really antisocial. But like, this is the whole thing with women is that they're specifically not like antisocial in this way, right? Like I can go, like everyone can be like, yeah, we're going to go and we're just going to like Uber Eats food or whatever. And I can just be like, I'll just skip the meal if I don't want to pay. It's like we're on the top of like a mountain and I don't want to pay like $240 for Uber Eats. Like I can just be like, yeah, I don't want to do this. As a guy, it's like people will give me shit and say that's weird, but like it's not the end of the world. Whereas like if a girl opts out of whatever the group is doing, they're now like shunned, like you're bad.
One thing I always think about is, when I'm just out trying to park my car and I'm having trouble finding a spot, I'm thinking, why do I need to look for parking? I should have reserved parking for good people, right? This kind of like policy, small privileges, I think that will go a long way.
Yeah, I think
Like
that
much-
goes a long way.
I think it will go much better than just cash handouts, right? If you had like the whole of society was engineered so that, people with more than 3 kids have like small privileges like that, you would feel special. It would feel cool. It would feel like something.
Well, it used to also be that if you didn't have kids or a wife, you were basically considered like retarded, or
Exactly.
people would assume you were gay, or like just something weird was going on, and you would be effectively ejected from like polite society. Like there were jobs where if you wanted to make partner, you needed to find a wife. Like
Yes.
if you are Don Draper and you want to make partner at the marketing, the copy firm, you need like a wife, and you don't just need like a wife, like a marriage certificate. You need like an apt and appropriate wife.
Which he didn't have, but he tried.
Well, she like looked okay on paper for a period of time, I think.
Yeah, but yeah.
It's like the type of wife where like you need like a thin wife who knows how to bake, and like there are certain traits that are like socially more acceptable. Like if you pull up to your like high school friends, barbecue, and you have like a thin wife who talks about cooking and whatever, it's like this is acceptable. If you pull up and you have like the
This is my
male
Discord
like fertility
E-wife.
goddess.
This is my Discord E-wife that I found in the wheat fields of Agartha. They just instantly kick you out.
Yeah, it doesn't go over great.
I think China will get there first. China has the ability to say, if you don't have 3 kids, you don't get promoted in the party, right? You don't get promoted as a bureaucrat. You don't get promoted in your company. China could do that, and I think they will. If they haven't done yet, I think it's about time they do it. Who knows when they will?
Well,
but
now is when they do the pivot. Like if they do the pivot now, it's just like spectacular execution from China. Every year that they don't do the pivot, it starts to get a little more worrying that like either they don't think it's possible to do the pivot, or they haven't figured out that they have to do the pivot.
Or they just don't know how is the other thing. Because like that, like, oh, if you don't have enough kids, you don't get promoted within the party. Like I still like that to me is a bit of a hazy policy, because anything that like
No, but I mean, it used to be the other way around, right? It used to be that if you had more than 1 kid, you didn't get promoted in the party. They had the apparatus. They had the laws. They just have to change the number. It used to be 1. Now it's 3, right? It's just changing one thing in the law. And they could do that. I think they could get away with it. And I think they will, like within 5 years.
women have defected from the equilibrium, basically. And so anything that you do that privileges women in a way where it doesn't prevent them from defecting doesn't actually like solve anything, right? It's like if you force people to have more kids now to get promoted, it's like you've now like you are pointing a gun at all of the men and saying like you must take on extra risk in order.
It's not putting it gun. You're just giving up perk, right? You're not saying, if you don't do that, you go to jail, which they used to do, right? They used to force you to have abortions. It was pretty brutal. Now it's easier than that. It's like, you want to have, you want to get ahead in life, then you have to do this. And again, it's not a huge thing. And again, so there's a silver lining with the birth crisis is that, nobody's having kids, but that means that the retards are not having kids either. And that is good, right?
I think the
Have they-
retards are having kids, man.
I was gonna say,
I'm
I
like
think
starting to get
retards
quite
are.
worried about this.
They're not. They're actually not. I mean, that used to be our worry. Our worry was that the worst people are having kids, the good people weren't. Now, if you look up the stats, nobody's having kids. Even the
They
lower.
finally figure out how to use condoms. Like there was a long period where it was like, you know how they would have a statistic that says like, oh, condoms are only 88% effective. And then you look at the actual methodology for the study, and it's just because the bottom 10th percentile cannot figure out how to use a condom. Like they can never apply it properly. And so,
And the studies that are like slightly more honest will say like condom, and then they don't say like not a retard using it, but they say like condom applied properly, and it's like 99.8%. Like, yeah.
I mean,
Dude, even I mean, none of our viewers should use this knowledge because it wouldn't be a great idea, and I absolutely will not hold myself responsible for anything that happens in your life. But like, you can even like period track, and like the radon being able to period track and like avoid
dude, it's
having a
worked for
kid.
my entire life. And everyone is like, this is impossible. It's pseudoscience hoax. It's like,
It's the official teaching of the Catholic Church.
That you're allowed to like period track to not have kids.
Yeah. They actually promote this period tracking system by some Japanese guy, which is pretty funny because I'm pretty sure he wasn't a Catholic. But when you get, and I got those when I got married first. When you get married in a Catholic church, they give you this like small course like for a week or two, and they teach you that. You're like, no condoms, no anything. If you must space births, that's the only approved way of doing it, and it's period tracking by this. I don't remember the name, but any good Catholic in the audience will know.
So sorry, what is your, to kind of wrap this thing, what is your like Spandrell's in charge? You get to do whatever policy you want. What is your like grab bag of policies to make people have kids again?
What you want is for the good people who are already mostly getting married and having 1 or 2 kids. You want them to have 5 instead of 2. Right?
Yeah.
so if
They
you,
are having like 1 or 2 kids. They just have them like very late. And it's like this huge suffering. I think a lot of it is also the boomer problem. Like the boomers like kind of do not pass on wealth until they're very, very, very old.
Yeah, that's a
It's
problem.
no longer really useful.
When the
Right?
boomers were born, the parents didn't have any wealth. So again, it shouldn't be about money.
Well, they didn't have wealth, but it was like a lot easier. I'm not necessarily saying like, oh, we literally need to like forcefully redistribute boomer money to their kids or anything.
No, we should. We absolutely should. We absolutely should.
Never mind. We are saying that.
We are absolutely saying that. We should confiscate all boomer wealth and give it to the.
I think my view is that like, so I talk about this a lot. This is like one of the things I talk about where if I was more conscientious like you and I was less lazy, I would have a blog post that I could point to it, or it'd have like a word that I coined for it. But like one thing I think about a lot and I talk about a lot is that the inflation indexes are sort of extremely out of control when you consider the price of things that are not really luxuries. So like healthcare, right? Or like housing, right? Like these are things that historically were not considered luxury. But if you consider like mobile device or luxury clothing or luxury suitcase or like a business class flight, all of these things have gotten a lot cheaper. All the things you really don't actually need in life have gotten a lot cheaper, and it's a lot more tempting to keep consuming them and loudly consume them because there's this social cycle of consuming them. But then the things that are really important, like space to put my children, or like the social costs of like finding a wife or finding a husband with shared values and that, has not done a bunch of things to ruin their life. All of these things are much more expensive.
They are in America. And again, I want to caution, because I know you two are Americans, and I guess 90% of your audience is American, but school is not expensive in China. Healthcare is not expensive in China or in Japan or in Singapore. And the birth rate is even lower than in America. So people are not having kids because they don't have any money because of school costs. That's what they say, but that's not true. maybe it would be true. Maybe if healthcare and schools in America had the same price as in Japan,
It's just
but
always
America doesn't have
really
free kids.
observably untrue to me, because you can look at the poorest, dumbest people in America and they have the most kids, right? It's like when people say that people in America are getting fat because they don't have enough money. It's like, obviously they have too much money to buy food and that's why they're eating too much of it, right? Like, it's just observably wrong. You cannot look at the poorest, dumbest people doing the thing in a way that somehow the rich people can't figure out because they don't have enough.
The real problem is, again, yes, the social cost of having a wife that you actually love and she's a good wife is
It's
impossible.
getting exorbitantly high. Yes.
It's impossible, and that is common to all the world. That's the one thing. All the men in every single country go on Twitter, and by far the easiest way to get any engagement is to shit on women. Right? It's the one thing that will get you likes from all over the world. You'll get half of India, like 2/3 of China. Everybody will say, "Fuck yeah, fuck women," because all men all over the world have this common problem. Women are intolerable these days, or at least compared to what they used to be. So that is one thing. And that is not about money, right? That is, it's another social problem. If I'm king, what do I do with women? Well, man, don't get me started. But
I like how he says, like, this is the one way you can cheaply engagement bait on the internet and get a lot of followers. It's like, but then it's like, I'm not above that easier. Like, this is also objectively.
I mean, I'm not verified on Twitter. I don't get any money. I don't engage bait. I don't like it. It's annoying for my.
No, you don't. A very good follow, actually. Highly recommend following Spandrell.
But every time I just shit on women because I feel like it, I get like 5,000 likes. And again, it fucks my notifications and I get all these weird replies that I don't want. But it is true. I mean, that's the one common problem that all men feel they have all over the world.
Yeah, did you notice literally yesterday, I wrote a tweet that was like, women don't understand how men feel about tattoos. And it's like I'm not even saying tattoos are bad. Like, it's like it's a not super disguised like meta point, but it is like a meta point, right? Like, I'm not saying tattoos are bad. I'm just saying, like, women don't seem to have realized how men feel about tattoos.
Yep.
And it's like,
or anything really, actually. Like, you can expand that to they lack empathy. Like,
if you're a girl with like a high theory of mind for what men like, you unironically bat like 2 points above how good looking you are.
Yeah, like 6 to an 8 instant.
Unironically, instant 6 to an 8.
Yep. I would actually even argue that it's like 2.5 or 3. I'm thinking about all the problems that I've had.
In terms of marriage, it might be 2.5. In terms of like a random hookup, obviously not. But yeah, in terms of marriage, yes, absolutely.
Because it is just like, you need to just not know when to say specific things. That it's like, my example is always like, yes, everything is destroyed. Like, both of us have heinous pasts that we never want to know about from each other, right? It's like, all you have to do is like, just not randomly bring it up to me. And it's like, I will willingly pretend that it doesn't exist. Like, I will willingly lie to myself and say, oh yeah, she probably never did this stuff that all those other girls did, right? You just have to not randomly be like dropping hints or like breadcrumbs to stories that are like outlining the specific like heinous thing that you did. And they all do that. Like, they cannot help themselves but just like randomly dox the worst thing in the universe.
Yeah, I do think also Spandrell's great because you're one of the guys who's married who you're like, yeah, dude, it's really, there's 2 types of married guys. There's like the ones who are like, dude, it's not that hard. I did it. And I'm so ugly, man. I'm a fat retard. And look at my wife. There's like the
all you guy who was walk up to her and give her a firm handshake.
There's the wife guy. And then there's the most misogynistic guy ever who's like, holy shit, dude, it's so over for you.
I come from a long tradition. Again, I'm not Anglo, and in all countries but Anglo countries or Germanic countries, the greatest tradition was everybody got married, but everybody was constantly shitting on their wife, right? The one thing you did in public, like bragging about having a good wife was the worst thing you could do. Like, you would lose all your friends immediately. And I think that's a good tradition that should be continued. Yeah, I mean, everybody's married, and marriage is okay. But when somebody asks me, I tell them, never get married. Women suck. Marriage sucks. And that's just, again, Lindy and good. And that's what people should do.
The total wife guy.
I always say that
like
when
wife guy, like the guy helicopter.
Dude, wife
And
guys
again-
are like the least likable people of all time.
When somebody tells me they're getting engaged, I say I congratulate kids. I don't congratulate marriages. So when you have a kid, good for you. I'll congratulate you. When you get married, I'm like, up to you, man.
The only guy who like goes to a wedding and like they already have like a bastard son, and he's like, "Holy shit, this is awesome! You guys got a head start."
But I always say that you should have a kid before marriage because you want to test, right? You don't want to be the guy who gets married and for whatever reason you can't have kids.
Dude, that's
Well,
so
the
funny.
problem is also nowadays that you are kind of forced into all the promises of marriage without any of what it used to. Like you're forced into all the historical, like you share your assets and whatnot without any of the like positive things that marriage used to.
That's the thing. I didn't get married in the West, and I wouldn't. Right? I'm lucky because I live abroad. I married a foreigner, and worst case that can happen to me, I cannot get divorce rate because I can always leave. Right? I will get the fuck out, and my assets will be abroad, and fuck with it.
This is
So I
also
have-
a thing that a lot of like a worrying amount of people who are married and not wife guys say to me is like, the secret is you have to make her think that you will always leave on the drop of a hat. If something bothers you, like you are fine. It's like, what's the guy who's like, what movie is it where the guy says the famous quote where it's like, "I'm always 5 minutes away from leaving."
That's no, there's a name for that, and I loved it. I think it was Royce or Chateau Artiste, the old plot.
There's a movie where they say this famously. I mean, Chateau Artiste might have been there as well, but there is like a famous movie where the guy goes like, "That's the thing about me. I'm always
he had a
ready
name
to
for that.
drop everything."
He called it dread game. It was like the best way to keep a woman on her on our place is to pull the dread game. That's a last resort. Like, be careful with it. But if you play the dread game, she will always be nice to you. And I always thought it was brilliant. Yeah, dread game. Just keep her in dread. Like, if she pressures you too much, you will leave and she will never hear about you again.
It's
that's
just like Total War Gender Edition.
It's mutual assured destruction. It's not something you. I mean, I wish I didn't have to do that, but it's in this day and age is the only card you have.
It is an incredibly powerful card.
Yep.
Do you have any other
about it is like the most successful way to like if you want to just blitzkrieg all of these battles, it is just like once you're locked in, you just care less. And like both sides know this also. So we're just doing infinite race to the bottom. Of like, yeah, I have more power because I don't give a shit. Like,
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, a woman can always, she can call the cops, she can destroy her life on a whim. She can. That's just how it is. But if the only way you can counter that is, I can get the fuck out. I can leave the country. And if you don't have that, it's really hard. I really respect my friends who just have a normal life in their home countries and have to put up with, modern women. I wouldn't be able to.
what is your like finding a wife advice?
I found mine. I found mine in college. Pretty normal story. We
God.
got married.
Not looking so bullish for us, is it?
that's so funny, man.
We got married.
I wind up thinking you finally found like the secret alpha and he's going to divulge how to navigate the modern marital waters. And then he's like, yeah,
No.
just like find a good one in college.
Just fired the good one 5 years ago.
Again, I'm not the guy to ask. I was always the kind of guy who played in normal mode. I don't like a challenge. I don't like to make my life harder than it should be. I went to college in Japan, and I'm very mobile. I'm good at languages. When I have a problem, I just leave. How to find? I mean, if I'm sure I would have found someone back home if I had stayed. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really the guy to ask about how to navigate modern women in place.
How long did you date before you got married, or not just married, but like significant level of commitment that like you understand what I'm really asking here? I'm not really asking specifically marriage. I'm asking, there should be like some kind of term for this, but it's like I have invested enough socially, financially, time-wise into this relationship, emotionally, that like it would be a massive bummer.
Right. So I was never a fan of dating and the whole date thing. You know, you go to a place, you go to a mall, you go here, you go there, and you know you meet once a week. I just never liked that. So again, met my friend in college. We were kind of we were friends for a while, and you know there was some tension there. And after we got intimate, I just basically moved into her apartment. I had my place, but I just basically was staying with her all the time, and we lived together for the rest of college. I'm like, if again, you know, people are always like kind of paranoid because you know, what if she's cheating on me? What if she's dating other guys? And I never had that problem because I was
Just move in, bro.
I was just, I'll let him move in, right? And we were always together all the time, so we were very close the whole time. And eventually, I was like, I wanted to move out to some other place, and she would have to quit her job, which she had just got to be with me. And she was like, I'm not quitting my job if we don't get married. And I was like, that's fair. So we got married. And that was shortly after graduation. So 3 years.
Okay.
And then she got pregnant shortly afterwards. And that was that.
Just like a shockingly normal story. It always winds up this way. This is the other thing, is every single time you find a guy who like, you're like, you know, this guy's strung together kind of an interesting, like outside the system thing. Like, let's ask him for the secret alpha on this one. And every single one of the guys, if they're honest, will just be like, I don't fucking really know, man. Like, I don't really think my thing is applicable to any other person out there. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to live your lives. And you're just like, you know, it's like, it's totally honest and true, but also that's not what the viewers want. The viewers want like a strict father figure coming in and telling them like, listen here, son, this is how you get a wife. Like, that's what they want.
Yeah, that is. It's not what the viewers want. That's what like everyone wants. Like everyone wants to believe that it's like the opposite of catharsis, right? Where catharsis is like you know, you do something wrong and you intrinsically want punishment for it. It's like the opposite. Like you want to be told there's like a wrong way to do things such that you feel that there is like a moral ordering to life, right? And sometimes the answer is literally just like, yeah, sorry, man. Like I just got lucky. Like I just met the girl in college, you know?
This is also every single guy I know that like likes their current arrangement now. Their response is just like, yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of got lucky, man.
Yeah.
I think it was very highly lucking.
The whole gang thing was very white because it meant you could fake it, right? You could learn some tricks and you would get women. That doesn't work in Asia at all.
I don't think game works anywhere anymore.
Probably not. Yeah. It's funny because I was reading about. I was obsessed with gay. I was really enjoying all those blogs and books and all that. I didn't need it because you know I was in Japan, and I really had a super pleasant wife, and you know, I was playing Mario Kart all day with my friends.
Just like odd
She was just
manosphere forums for the love of the game.
Yeah.
Dude.
Exactly. I was just, wow, this is super interesting. But then, you know, I had a naked Asian girl in my bed just watching me play Mario Kart and just cheering up. I was like, wow, I don't need to do shit, but it's really interesting.
I mean, it is just so conceptually interesting as like a psychological construct and the way it like propagated through society and then basically got debunked by everyone. Like the fact that your average college woman knows what a neg is, and like if like Mr. Mystery Method guy walks up to her and tries to do his epic game, she will respond with like, are you utilizing the tactic from Rollo Tomasi's The Rational Male, chapter 8, line 372, negging on me?
Yeah, there is currently like a level of like looking at the camera that exists with game that did not exist historically. Like people are just very aware of what's going on. And I think actually if you do super hard, I never consumed this kind of stuff. And then I want to say one funny thing about a mutual. I never consume this stuff, but I think nowadays if you do super hard game, you're actually selecting for like either a really stupid girl who doesn't understand what's going, like if you do it really hard, right? You can always incorporate a few things. Or you're selecting for a girl who like wants someone to run game on her. Like whether that's like just whether she's conscious of that or not. Yeah, it's like on some level, like there's a selection. And then I was going to say about Chateau Artiste, I have a friend who's like one of the wife guys who's like, I don't know, man, just find her in college, dude. Like very similar to you, kind of. And he's done two things that are very funny. Number one, he has downloaded all of Chateau Artiste onto like multiple hard drives for his kids because he's like, dead internet theory, all this stuff is gonna get scrubbed off the internet. I need to preserve this for my children. Which is super funny because to me, I actually never really read Chateau Artiste. I read it after because Bap recommended it to me and he mentioned it to me. But I actually really don't like the style. It's a little jarring to me. The writing style is where he just goes like, you stupid retard, just do the thing. And like, he writes like one-line arguments and hits return. It's too Andrew Tate-esque for me.
Does he do like manosphere writing? He does like manosphere because I've never read it either. He does like
manosphere. I have read it. Just like
he was the manosphere. He basically invented it.
He was the guy. This is like the proto. Like once
this is like me complaining about all of the tropes in like Neon Genesis Evangelion.
This is like complaining about Shakespeare or like the way the Bible writes about things. I'm not really complaining about all of it. I'm just complaining about a specific thing, which is like exactly what Andrew Tate latched off of, basically. Okay, another thing that a lot of people don't know, Andrew Tate used to be like just a guy who tweeted on our corner of Twitter.
And he was like,
a lot of people don't know this.
Like he would be like, it's like stuff where he would be comparing whether it was hotter for you to be like a woman who transitioned into a man or a man who transitioned into a woman. And he would make up like, sophist philosophical arguments for like why one is ontologically better than the other.
That actually really humanized Andrew Tate to me. Like realizing like this was just a guy who had like 10,000 followers back in like...
Dude, he was like in group chats that we are in currently that are like still ongoing, right? But he's like left something
super humanizing. And then the other thing he always talks about is he says like, look, the way it works with any couple, like on both sides of it, he has like a very unromantic, very biomechanical take on this while being like a very romantic. Like he's a great dad, a great husband. He's a great guy overall. But he says like, there is an invisible timer over your wife's head. And it resets every time you have sex. And then it counts down. And if that number ever hits 0, she immediately cheats on you. Like, it's not because she hates you. It's just a biological imperative. And he's like, when you're not married, that number is like a week or 2. Once you get married, maybe it becomes like a month. But that's it. Like, there's the number, man. Like, that's the way it works.
I mean, it's a worst case scenario. It's kind of paranoid, but...
I think it's a very paranoid, like unromantic. I think there is like a view of the world where like, if that's the way things work, then I fundamentally need to approach marriage differently because marriage and like quote unquote love mean very different things than what I thought it was. Right. Yeah. Just as the historic, like boys are more romantic than women, which is just subjectively true. Right.
It is. In general, I would say it is. Yeah.
I think it's also kind of true because girls used to quote unquote drop the handkerchief a lot more and like choose the guy. And nowadays I feel like a lot of girls are like it's very much just like, okay, who approaches me? And that leads to like a much more mercenarial view.
So that's the thing. If I had to give one piece of advice to anyone today is don't approach too much. Look for a girl who already likes you. And that's what I've always done. And I guess I've lost a lot of pussy because of that, because I was lazy and I was just waiting for a sign. And, there's a lot of girls I would have been able to get if I had been more proactive. But I've really had very few bad experiences with women because I always waited for a girl who already liked it. So I didn't have to fake anything. I didn't have to do any theater. I didn't have to run any game.
Yeah. No, I think that's the way to do it. Look, like you can chase tail.
Yeah.
But I would say like, don't marry a girl who never gave you a sign.
Dude, this works if there's girls out there that actually like you, right? But like every time I give this advice to people, it's like you wind up with like the world's most unfortunate man looking back at you and he's like, that's never happened to me. And then everyone's first impression is to be like, surely it must have happened to you at some point, right? But it's like, it's actually totally possible that it's just never happened to this guy. Like,
but
now more than ever, it's super possible.
If you're that guy, I would rather move to the Philippines and just get the bottom barrel village girl. And, you'll be happier like that than just fake some high status persona and just being running game the rest of your life. It's just tiring. And again, some men enjoy the hunt. I know plenty of guys that do, and they really like just chasing tail and doing this and doing that. I don't myself. I really hate it, just chasing tail and getting rejected. And it's again much better experience for me to just wait for a girl who already kind of is interested in you, and then approaching and sets. Of course, you have to finish the deal. You have to be the one.
Yeah, you got to seal the deal.
Yep. You had to seal the deal, but you need something there instead of just winning her over from scratch, because that's just not going to work. She doesn't like it.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
It is so notable
the way
you do a girl who just like absolutely loves you versus one who's like kind of on the fence and like needs convincing. And like the second one is like much more mechanically interesting in terms of like, it's a really complex operation that you're running, right? You have to like fuck around with all these like levers and shit. And if you ever say like the wrong word, it just instantly explodes. But like long-term sustainability, is it possible to maintain this for a stable marriage? Probably not.
Probably not. And again, some guys really enjoy the mechanics of it. I have this good childhood friend that he was really good looking. He was really tall. He was 6'6", I guess, in American. And it was really good looking, and he had all these girls all the time, and he really liked to chase them all the time. He was just proud. He was prowling all the time. And every now and then he'll get a really hot girl. He would just get there and get in a club, and she will be just this close to him, and he would just leave. I was like, dude, she was right there. It was like, I don't really enjoy sex that much. I enjoy knowing that I could. I was like, what?
The other stuff I wanted to talk about is, so you're very well known for the IQ shredder, and I actually think
also Bio-Leninism. Codex says that you did Bio-Leninism also, which is crazy. You've invented all of these concepts that are
those are my two big hits, I guess.
I think it's crazy. Bio-Leninism was like a very largely discussed thing, and for a long time I actually didn't know it was you until I actually went through, and I didn't read all of your blog, but I read a decent chunk of it. It is a very good blog, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, very, very like well maintained. It's a good blog.
We actually just had Spandrell on the podcast because we need to ask him blogging advice, parenting advice, women advice. That's the whole, it's like, this is all billable like consulting hours that we've now scammed him into.
Yeah, makes you feel old back as I am.
Dude, we're old. Like I'm old. I mean, Sayla's only 21 years old, but like
dude, I'm not 21. You gotta stop saying that. People are gonna start actually thinking every time he says it, he's like lowers it 1 or 2 years.
So the Bio-Leninism, can you guys like explain this to me? Because I've seen it around all the time, and it's another one of those concepts I've contextually reconstructed, but I think it's probably complicated enough that I might have fucked it up.
Yeah, sure. So the idea is, like, communists had this thing where you were only, so they had like legal classes, right?
Yes.
So you could be a kulak, or you could be a proletarian or whatever, and you couldn't get far in a communist country if the government didn't think you could be trusted, and you could only be trusted if you were of solid like proletarian roots. So if you had any family background with anyone had any amount of money, then they thought you couldn't be loyal because you thought the communist government was worse than what came before. So you couldn't get in. You couldn't become a member of the party. You couldn't get far in any work unit like they had. So the whole thing was that the only way to get ahead was to be poor and have poor parents and poor grandparents and all that. And it kind of worked, right? Like the Soviet Union lasted 70 years. It kind of sucked, but it was pretty stable. And China, I mean,
when you say it worked, sorry, do you mean it worked like it was a good idea, or do you mean like it was stable and maintained power, or maybe some mix of the two?
It was stable and maintaining power in a system which was completely retarded, right? You wouldn't think that if you read anything about Soviet Russia, it was completely retarded in so many ways. So many layers of complete retardation. It's amazing that it lasted like over 10 years, but it did, 70 long years. And why? Because, they actually made sure that loyal people were put in place, and disloyal or potentially disloyal people were either disadvantaged or outright killed for a while, right? I mean, that's how their politics work. And how do our politics work, right? And I was involved in politics for a while, just at the time that it was right.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't high up in the time, but I went back home for a couple of years, and I joined a political party. And I was like, I've been all these years writing about politics. Maybe I should give it a try. So I gave it a try, and I got to see how the sausage is made, right? How political parties work. And I realized that, yeah, of course, why is everything like fucked up and retarded? And there's a reason for everything. And the reason that everything is fake and gay in the West today is because political parties run everything, and political parties are structured in a way that the only way to get ahead is to be, fucked up and retarded and fake and gay. The only way to get ahead in politics is if you have anything better to do, right? Because politics doesn't pay well. And if you're an engineer and you're a very good engineer, you're gonna be, you're gonna get ahead in engineering. And maybe if you're like enterprising, you're gonna start your own company, and you're gonna make a lot of money. But that's not how it works in politics, right? Because there's no way of there's no way of making money in politics. You're not selling a product. You're just getting elected.
Yeah. This has kind of been my grand theory of politics too, is like, if you're actually good at the messaging, PR, marketing, etc. required to be a good politician, you can just go into marketing or PR.
Exactly.
You're gonna make a lot of
things, or sales, and all of these things just pay infinitely more money.
Infinitely better.
Like politics, the only way in which you can be financially compensated to a similar extent to just becoming a really good marketer or salesperson is by scamming the fuck out of the system, right? So you can just kind of, by virtue of that fact, assume that anyone who's involving themselves willingly in politics plans to scam the system, right? They're basically a second-rate salesman whose plan to derive a massive income for themselves involves stealing it from taxpayers who are forced to subscribe to some service they render.
Right. And office politics is a thing in every company too, but still there's a thing that you have to perform, right? There's a job to do, and you have to do the job, and you're either good or bad at that. And, all companies have metrics which are better or worse, but they're usually pretty accurate at assessing how good you are at your job. But seeing how political parties work from the inside, how they have all these cliques, and they're fighting all the time.
It's just theater kids also. Like, if you go into politics, you are theater kids, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And, there's this thing, and that this was on the center-right party in my country, right? I heard that from a bunch of countries in Europe, and the center-right, all these parties have like a youth branch, a youth movement. And 50% of the youth branch of the center-right party is gay. Like, actively homosexual. I was like, 50%? I mean, I would buy 10, 20 maybe, but 50? I was like, yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because they have nothing better. They have nothing else to do. They have nothing better to do. And, they have no family. They have no, I mean, it's a very gay job in a way, right? They just have to talk a lot and just make friends.
Because it's like an ideal job. Like, the gay part of my brain is tingling, saying like, this would be the greatest thing that you could ever do in your life.
Yeah. It really got me thinking about loyalty and how loyalty works. And back to Chateau Hartis, Chateau Hartis was this quote that he would say all the time. He was like, loyalty only goes so far as your options, right? Women are only loyal as far as their options. The more options they have, the less loyal they will be, and men should be the same way. I was like, you know what? Yeah, that's exactly how it works. People are loyal depending on the options they have. And why were like proletarians loyal to fucking Soviet Russia with all its misery and oppression? Because they had nothing else to do. They had no other options.
We might have actually, dude, I think we just cracked it, Sela. So we've had this like ongoing thesis on the podcast, basically, that an increased efficiency of markets tends to just destroy humans' enjoyments of the market. And we know that this is true observably, right? Like, if you have a dating market that is hyper efficient, you can go on Tinder and you can swipe and find like 8 million people who are plus or minus like 2% of like whatever your algo ranking is. Everyone instantly wants to kill themselves. Like this is the explanation for that, right? Is if optionality is the inverse of loyalty, we've now basically removed loyalty from society. Like it can't exist. If everyone has enough options and there's a system that provides everybody with like both the workplace liquidity and the like the romantic liquidity that they need for everything, then just no one is loyal to anything.
Yes.
Which means you can never trust anything, right? Like if you can't be loyal, you can't trust anything. So like everything is a rug now. You have to.
Well, it's just optionality is like actually bad. Like optionality, like anything else, like there should be more than one woman in your village, right? So that way, if the only one who's there has some massive problem, you can go marry someone else. But if there's like 10 million women in your proverbial quote unquote village, like your actual realistic dating pool, it is now like incredibly difficult to, right? It's like the secretary problem where it's like there's some, optimal search. And obviously like this is very theoretical, but there's an optimal percentage of the sample that you go through in order to find the best secretary, right? I also just want to say, while we took a massive detour from your Bio-Leninism thing, that was an amazing weave back. Like just a god tier. We've been talking about this with Lucas a lot, where like we notice some people are very good at doing the weave and going in and out of topics and like referencing something back from the conversation. That was a god tier. We were like 2 or 3 interruptions down and you like weaved it back into Bio-Leninism. That was actually very impressive, man.
Like, I mean, it's all connected, right? Like,
so yeah, finish it out. I think you're like right there.
Yeah, right. So again, I lasted like 3 months in the party. I was never a member, but I was a volunteer, and I got to volunteer in an election, which was a really fun experience, and got to see how the party works on the inside and all that, and all these cliques. And I was like, I just couldn't stand it anymore. 3 months later, I was like, fuck this shit. I just go out and make money. And it started me thinking, who the hell stays here? Who the hell stays in this shit? And
you're either a psychopath or you have nothing better to do.
Exactly, and
it's one of those two groups. Like you either literally are dead set on being a politician, so you're probably a psychopath, or you have literally nothing better.
And then again, Soviet Russia, right? They had nothing better. They had nothing else to do because there was not much else to do. But there's a lot to do.
Also in Soviet Russia, you couldn't be a businessman, right? Like a lot of the other avenues were closed, and so that's how you get like hyper competent people going into government.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is like the bullet post for politicians is like, what if you are just like a really ideologically driven person who is just, you're like, this is like politics actually do allow you to enact change in a society. I actually just want to change things for the better. Is that person really there? Do they actually exist? Or is it?
Well, nowadays you can't really even change things, right?
Yeah.
So it's like what are you doing?
So like as soon as everybody realizes you can't change things, all of the like ideologically driven good like wholesome Chungus people just leave.
Exactly. I mean, again, it's being a politician is, I mean, if you're very vain and you really like the spotlight and all that, maybe you like it. But at least for me, it was not a good lifestyle. It was not a good life at all. It was like, who the hell wants this? And it was like, yeah, people have no other options in life. And then it was like, but who has no other options in life today? It's a free society. And it was like, well, yeah, there's just bad people who are fucked up in general. And again, that applies to the whole, just not to parties, to the whole political machine, right? Like who ends up as a bureaucrat in some low world and people have nothing else to do. And that's how the left works, right? That the communists did that, and the right wing does that in the smaller scale, but the left is the actual political machine in every country. The left is what runs the whole thing, and the right is the small opposition that just tries to stop the thing for a couple of years.
The right inherently loses politics. Like everything that said right now leads me to believe that it's just impossible to win politically as the right wing.
It is.
I mean,
well, I think what you just said is correct. Like the right doesn't want to win. Like the vision of the right winning is like 2% lower taxes. Like the roads are really nice. The vision of like the left winning is like Neon Genesis Evangelion. Like we unify all of humanity under one conscious brain, and like the totalization. Like we monetize the eschaton. Like it's like biblical levels of power, right? Curtis has the one really good phrase on this, which is like, the right cares about power the way like a wine mom cares about alcohol, and the left cares about power the way an alcoholic cares about alcohol.
Yeah, that was a great tweet.
Yeah, no, the political machine is insane. This is one of the things I volunteered for a couple elections when I was young. That was I think that was very good for me. I think this is something you should do once. Also because if you ever do want to do a political career, which you really shouldn't do until you have a lot of money and a lot of backing, but if you ever want to do a political career, like having volunteered even just once when you were younger, that will become retconned into like you were knocking on doors for hours and hours and hours of your life.
Yeah.
Like they all have the fake origin. This is another thing, like another dark advice is like, if you do something once or twice, a year later, you did it a bunch of times. 5 years later, oh yeah, I like did this a bit. 10 years later, like you were a really big guy in those spheres. Like you can kind of like push the lie a little bit, which you shouldn't do, but sometimes it becomes very useful for you to do, right? Like this is just like a very useful thing in general, is like if you do something once or twice, you get your
coming on the podcast and saying like, you should consider me to be untrustworthy, and if I ever say anything about myself, you should assume that it's a lie.
The thing is, I don't do this a lot on the podcast. That's like why I try to stay anonymous, right? Is because then I can be very honest online, and like just generally with online people. But yeah, this is a huge, I mean, I've just seen people do this. I've seen like high school classmates of mine who played like American football like once or twice and were like a third string quarterback become like, oh dude, I was huge into American football in college, man. In high school, I was huge. I was so good, dude. I was the star.
The problem with this thing is if you're gonna do this LARP, people do this LARP all the time with like weird niche internet communities, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I was really big back on like this or this groups in the day. And then it's like, you will at some point talk yourself into the room where everyone else has actually been in those things. And now they're going to be like, oh dude, so you were like really big in this one specific like Bay Area underground techno scene when you were growing up. I was like a big DJ back in the day. Like what scenes did you run with, bro? And now it's just over for you, right? Like you have embarrassed yourself in front of everyone. Everyone did this in crypto all the time too, where they would just like LARP, and then they meet up with people in real life. And it's very different to LARP online to a crowd of mentally retarded people than it is to like LARP your way into a room of people who like actually have like 9-figure wealth. And now you're trying to tell them about how you, yeah, bro, like I got these crazy tax structures and like I only live here like 4 months out of the year. I go to Puerto Rico the rest of the time so that I'm like,
You're thinking about someone super specific the way you like.
I am thinking about one specific guy who really embarrassed himself.
Yeah. Tell us about China. So I almost did a very big trip to China this year, and I got totally wrecked by the war. Because my plan was to go to Dubai for a few weeks, see some friends, whatnot. And then go over to China, because I've never been to Dubai or to China at all.
Sure.
Tell us about China. Like, okay, so you moved to Japan for college.
Chinese, obviously, right?
I do, yeah.
How good of Chinese would you say you speak?
He speaks good.
When I talk on the phone, I would say 60% of the people can't tell any part.
That's very impressive.
Yeah. Because like that's the only way you can enjoy China. If I've heard a guy say they enjoyed China, they speak.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, again, if you want to live here long term, then yeah, eventually it's gonna drag.
If you want to live somewhere, you have to speak the language, and this is not even in like oh, you need to assimilate, man. It's just like there are obvious disadvantages to everyone speaking the language and not you.
I will never assimilate. I will never get the passport. I will never do that. I know what I am.
And I'm a rootless I love I'm a rootless cosmopolitan posting. It's so...
Oh, I mean I can be, but I know where I'm from, and I still go home once a year or twice, and I still love my country. And
I mean, I live there
to get permanent status in China.
Not really, as long as you have a decent job and you've been living. I think it's I don't have permanent myself, but I think it's 10 years.
Oh, well, 10 years might as well be permanent, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. In Japan, it's easier. In Japan, I think it's 5. In China, I think it's 10. But again, do you really want permanent? I mean, most
I don't
people.
think you really want permanent. You want
Again, I mean, if you're married, you get a marriage visa, right? So, would you want to live there permanently if you're single? I don't think so.
yeah.
Right? Same in Japan.
What made you want to go to Japan and to Asia in the first place?
Yeah, so I was, I was a nerdish high school kid back home. And so yeah, I was a normal like nerdy high school kid, and I was playing video games all the time. All my friends were out getting hammered and smoking weed in nightclubs, but my parents were kind of strict and would let me. So I had to stay home and play video games, right? So I started learning Japanese because of that. I got some, I was really into the online. I was very online, and I got some Japanese games that were not translated. I was like, fuck this. I'll try to learn. And I was good at it. I learned pretty fast, and I felt I had superpowers, right, dude? I fucking speak Japanese, man. I'm good at this because I was in IRC, and I was in all this online scene of all these weeps, and everybody loved Japan, and everybody was doing like cosplays on manga festivals and whatnot, but I was the only guy who spoke the language, so I felt very special. And then after high school, I got the chance to visit, and I was a superstar. I was like, oh, look at this black kid actually speaks the language. And back home, I was this like just weird nerd who doesn't smoke weed. And in Japan, I was like super high status. So I was like, fuck this, I'm moving here.
Oh God, were your friends all like weed smokers? That's like my nightmare, man.
I mean, everybody was too. There wasn't. I mean, again, I wasn't going to a super good school, but it was a decent, normal, like upper middle class school back home. But everybody was like that. I mean, again, my country doesn't have a big intellectual scene in general. I didn't have nerd friends, at least not in person. So yeah, I mean, it was a huge social upgrade just visiting Japan as a weeb than just staying home. So but fuck it. It took a bit of convincing my parents, but eventually they relented, and I went to Japan. I took the SAT equivalent, and I passed it, and I got to a good college, and that was that.
Okay, another thing. I think you don't say what you do for work, but is your work like a remote kind of online work, or is it more like in person, you're at a company?
No. I work remote. I'm a software engineer, I might say.
Yeah, so that gives you a lot more kind of viability to like move around randomly, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, the thing about Japan and China is that as a consumer is paradise. It's just so good. Everything is cheap. Everything is.
I think
awesome.
right now we actually have the best exchange ratio versus the yen out of like the last 30 years.
Japan today is absurdly cheap. When I was living there, it was 105 yen to a dollar. Now it's 160 with no inflation or very little inflation. So it's absurdly cheap. Like I was in Japan last year, and I would see like Chicanos, like American Chicanos in Tokyo, just going around and being fancy. I was like, what? Really? Like,
it's gotten really absurd, but also it's getting dirtier because like more and more Americans are realizing this, and also they're figuring out how to travel. So like every time I've gone back to Tokyo for the last like 6 years, it's just been shittier.
Yeah.
Fuck, I have to go soon then, man.
No, dude, it's kind of over. Like, you miss Japan in the 90s. If you see it now,
you get it. Back when I was there, I was there before it was cool, and there were very few foreigners around. And I would go to 7-Eleven and buy something, and the clerk would get nervous because she didn't speak English. I was like, it's fine, I speak Japanese. But, oh, God. And now all the clerks are like Indians, right?
You were just like a total Giga Chad, like an insane Giga Chad in China.
In relative terms, yeah, I definitely felt like it. But again, Japan is really nice to just hang out and just consume. But if you have to work there, then it's hell.
Yes, and they have the most cartoonish work culture of all time.
Exactly.
Where
it's just like everything is investment banking, right? Like giga suffering, you have to stay super late, your social life.
You work an unlimited number of hours. They pay you like 38K, and then if you do really well, they will give you a raise to 38.05K.
Exactly. And it just sucks.
And then also you have to go out drinking with your coworkers like every day.
Yep.
And like they
Not every day, but
mega hammered, which it's like, oh dude, it's not based when you do it every day. It stops being based around
Well, it's
large
like
numbers.
it's a lot further than like a fun level. Like, okay, the problem is that like in America, your boss will be like, "Let's go and get totally hammered, guys." And then if you have like more than 2 drinks, you are like an alcoholic and not to be trusted. In Japan, it's like it's the opposite. Like you're like, yeah, you're not allowed to stop drinking until your boss stops drinking.
And also, if you ever say no, like when they invite you out to a thing, you just can't say no. Like culturally, it's totally not allowed. I have this friend who lived in Japan, and he exploited this to the most ridiculous end, where he realized very early on that if a Japanese person is asked if they want to go like hang out or they want to go to dinner or they want to do whatever, it's like they just have to say yes if it's part of their social group. And so he would ask these guys like, hey, do you want to go ride motorcycles with me at like 2 a.m? And they would be like, I guess. And so they like have to go. And then the next time they would be like, yo, do you want to come out drinking with us? And he would be like, no, I think I'm good. and they would just be like, what? Like they don't know how to respond to this because like it's tradition that you would care about doing this because you get kicked out of the group, but also they couldn't kick him out of the group because it would be rude. And so it just like broke their entire system.
It's again, there's a lot to love about Japan, but there's it's pretty annoying when you're part of it. And I was in college as a normal student, right? I was in the foreign group. I was going to normal class. I was writing my papers in Japanese. There were like 40,000 students in my college. There were like 2 white guys, and the other one was American and fat and just the stereotypical ugly nerd.
Oh, you were like the good one. That also made you like a massive relative big.
Yeah.
Here's the 2 people who are not from Japan, and it's like
Still, like 2 years in, I was like, I don't want to live the rest of my life here. Like, I like the experience, but I don't like it that much.
It's one of those things that you can say and it makes you sound really like based and cultured or whatever, but like I did go insane every time I've been to Japan. And like also I think Japan, I had the biggest fumble I've ever had in my entire life where like some old guy would come up and he would say, he's like, oh, do you like Japanese women? And I said, oh, no, thank you. They're fine, I guess. But no, not really my thing. And like I expected that he was going to be happy that I was saying I'm not coming over here specifically to do like sex tourism on your women. Like I'm just here for work. And actually he got like insulted. Like it was clear that I gave him the wrong answer. I was like, oh no. Like
Yeah.
Anyway, back in college, I had there were only 2 white guys, but there was a bunch of Koreans and Chinese, like hundreds. And the Chinese guys were pretty cool. I found the Chinese guys pretty cool. I found the Chinese girls pretty very cute, and started hanging out with some of them. And again, if you learn Japanese, you have to learn all this kanji, right? 2,000 characters. And China has the same. And I was a linguistics nerd, so I was like, might as well learn Chinese and reuse some of the time I put in this and learn another language. So I started learning Chinese while in Japan. And again, I was pretty good at it. I learned pretty fast. And I thought, I'm kind of getting bored of Japan. And, I guess next I could try China. So I started traveling while on vacation and all that. And, back then, China wasn't as rich and high tech as now. It was pretty gritty, and everybody was spitting in the street and smoking in taxis and everything. But again, I used to smoke cigarettes back then, and coming from Japan, where everything is like super regulated and super neat and clean, and going to China, you could just smoke a cigarette in a taxi and throw it away. I was like, dude, fuck yeah, freedom. And everybody's like shirtless and sitting in stools in the street and drinking beer, and I was like, everything was super cheap, like absurdly cheap compared to Japan. I was like, I could live here, man. This is fun. So I started enjoying.
Where do you think? What do you think becomes the next cheap place after this?
I mean, I'm getting.
You seem to be pretty good at front running the thing.
I mean, if there's a next one, is Vietnam, obviously. Vietnam is the next China.
Oh no!
Everyone says that.
I was hoping you were going to say something like marginally more sexy
or like lip.
Something like marginally more.
No, I mean Vietnam is like racially they're very similar. They're like a quarter Chinese, but like lots of historical influence, and it really feels similar to China back then. Kind of too much, So it's boring in that way, and the language is kind of a bitch, but they use Latin letters, so it's much easier to learn. And if I want to hop again, I guess I would move to Vietnam. But yeah.
So
I'm
does
getting old.
everything just work in China? Is it like the place where things just function now?
It does. It does now. It does now. It did it back in the day, but today,
When did
you
that
know,
change? What was like the tipping point?
2017, 18. So back then, everything was pretty chaotic for a while. Like lots of drugs around, lots of partying. It was very fun in that way. It was pretty chaotic. It was pretty dirty. Like the air quality sucked. Like you couldn't see the
Air quality improve. I would have imagined that with the increase in industrialization, the air quality would have gotten somewhat shittier, but maybe they just like filtered.
It was very shitty. Like 20, I think the worst was 2014, something like that. It was really, really bad. You couldn't see the traffic lights. You couldn't know when to cross the street.
Holy shit.
Oh, so it's like it's not even the thing where you're saying like, oh, the air quality index was telling me that this was you're saying like I couldn't see shit, Cap.
I couldn't see the traffic
Like
lights.
driving and I can't see the.
You would go up all these like fancy skyscrapers in Shanghai, right? And then like the floor 200 to see the skyline, and you couldn't see shit because of the air. Then Xi Jinping comes in, and Xi Jinping is this like old school like ascetic dictator, and he bans prostitution, he bans drugs, he bans this, starts dating people, and he starts cleaning up the pollution stuff, and now it's like super clean. It's like I wouldn't say Japan levels of cleanness, but yeah, pretty close.
Although Japan levels of cleanness is rapidly approaching like SF levels of cleanness.
Yeah, I mean Shanghai, Beijing,
Like Midwest Kansas levels of cleanness, maybe.
the air in the big cities is pretty clean. I guess if you go to the where where all the coal plants are in the outskirts, that's still kind of shitty. But in where most people live, it's very clean. The people are much better behaved. I mean, they still spit on the street now and then because the peasants will never learn. But when the boomers die, and they will, the new generation is closer to Japan than what they used to be.
I guess my question that's totally sort of unrelated to any sort of geopolitical or interesting cultural commentary is like, you're a blogger, you've been a blogger. Do you think that the whole blogging thing is going up or down in value right now? Because I'm kind of like, my thought with Twitter is that it's clearly been somewhat destroyed. And any sort of like, there used to be like an interesting thing where you could you could meet a lot of interesting people with very low effort on Twitter. Without having to like write the blog post, right? But it appears now that if you want to meet smart people, you actually do just have to long post.
I think there's been a cycle there. Like, I mean, I wrote a post on my blog a couple of years ago saying, why I kind of stopped blogging and what happened with the whole scene. And I mean, everybody went to Twitter, and Twitter it's low cost dopamine and just much easier to do. And much easier to make friends, and that's where people moved. And the blog thing was also a generation thing. So people my age, we just got old, we got married, we got busy, and we just had less time to blog. And Gen Z never started blogging, so the whole scene kind of decayed.
Well, it's also like back in a certain time, like Twitter was not so widespread, or social media was not so widespread, and it was harder to like go on it was like a weird thing to go on MySpace or like Facebook or something and write like political thoughts. So you kind of had to create your own blog. Or I guess some people I think did it like with friends. Like you would have a collection of people, right? And this is like the proto forums, right? Like the PUA forums or whatever else. But yeah, you get a lot of blogs because you want to talk about things online, and you can't really. There wasn't a place for that, right? I think nowadays Substack is eating a lot of this. How do you feel about Substack?
Right, that's the thing, right? So back in the day, I was on WordPress. Hartigis was on WordPress. Modebook was on Blogspot, I think, the Google one. And that kind of decayed. One more to Twitter. Now that Twitter is like enshittifying, Substack seems to be going well, and a lot of people are going there. And the thing about Substack is that you can make money, right?
Yeah, so I was talking about this with Lucas. There's like a very unique culture of spending money on writing on Substack that kind of doesn't happen anywhere else.
Yep.
Have you seen the really funny meme where Bill Ackman subscribes to a bunch of Substacks but uses like discount codes for them?
was really
Like, literal billionaire who just like, yeah, man,
was
I'm gonna
really cool.
take that. I'm gonna waste a minute of my life typing in this discount code.
Yeah, I mean, I had my blog. I moved out of WordPress when they started censoring people, and I learned to code back in the day, so I wrote my own blog software, and I've been doing that. But there's no way to make money like that, right? Back in the day, crypto seemed to be going up, so I thought, maybe I just do crypto payments. But the whole scene seems to be not going too well either. So I've been considering starting a Substack myself. But the thing about Substack is that to make money, you need to go on Stripe. And to go on Stripe, you need to KYC, and it's pretty thorough.
Has no one built like a crypto third-party
There is
plugin?
some like crypto KYC mumbo jumbo, but it's always a pain in the ass. And
No. I don't mean crypto KYC. I mean just like
Crypto's a
how like
a
people.
ZK KYC protocol that allows you
No, I
to
mean,
pay for things.
no,
There's some subscription systems with ETH, and I looked into those, but it's pretty convoluted.
Like the same way that like people can make websites that don't have comment sections have comment sections. Has no
Yeah.
one done that for like payments?
Not as easy as Stripe would be, say.
Yeah.
So at least for the
Payments is a very, very complicated and annoying thing. I mean, this happened. Do you remember all the guys who got blown off the internet and they were all like, "Oh, we have to find our own payment processor for this because otherwise," and so they all started making, like, I think the Gab guy tried to make his own payment processor, and like
Yeah.
you wind up going all the way up the chain, and then you realize that like there's some like private MasterCard, like effectively like a DNS list of like blacklisted payments processors, and it's like you just can't. It's literally like a private banking list. and you
It's
don't
really
even
bad
follow
because
social
at a
media.
certain point you have to make your own everything, right? It's like you're not on Cloudflare, so you have to make your own like DDoS protection. Like you have to do literally everything from scratch.
Exactly. Again, I'm not I know the Daily Stormer. I'm not Kiwi Farms. I don't think Cloudflare would go against me. Wait.
No, but the way it works is like this, right? So you're like, oh, I don't want to KYC to Stripe or whatever, so I'm going to create my own payment processor. And then it's like, hey, I've created this payment processor to make this worth my while. Does anyone want to use this? And I'll collect a small fee. And then you start getting people who are the sort of people that Cloudflare would maybe not want to.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can't do it with normal money, and the banking system is obviously very political. That's never going to work. You could do it on crypto, but again, it doesn't exist yet.
and again
And also,
the
you can't do Europe now, which is the other funny thing. Like if you try, like this is another thing that a lot of Americans don't realize, but if you try to deposit money into a European banking account from crypto, like there's eventually within a year, like 70% chance they just close your bank account and say like it's over.
It is annoying. It is annoying. And again, I don't have a huge audience, right? I have like 11K on Twitter, so if I added like crypto payments on my blog, I don't think I would make a lot of money. I might on Substack because you get new people. And there's
The problem also with the crypto payments is like you need an audience that is the type of devoted diehard freak that is willing to learn a new type of money in order to pay you, which is automatically like, it's like even if you manage to convince 1,000 people to pay you $5 a month, now doing it this new thing with crypto, it's like you can probably expect that only like 4% of those people will convert to doing it by Ethereum or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, sorry, I've been thinking about making a new Substack, but again, if I am to go on Substack and KYC, then might as well not do it as Spandrell and do a new persona and just be a little more.
The thing is,
normal.
it's so hard to do a new persona, man. It's just like starting off from zero. You either truly start off from zero, which is hellish, because you're like Spider-Man, like looking at the suit. Like, oh, I could like just put on this suit and immediately.
I liken it to
everything.
being a divorced guy who now is like, I'm just getting back into dating again, bros. And it's like, you don't realize like the meta's changed a lot since you ran your shit up, right? Like you benefited a lot from the cultural acumen of being the guy that people knew from like the last 20 years. Like if you go back now without that, it's different, bros.
yeah.
It's very hard. And then the other thing you can do, which is very tempting to do, is to seed it with people. But then if you seed it with people, you're kind of defeating the whole point
Yes.
of starting off from zero? I mean, do you lean towards like seeding it, or do you lean towards like doing it totally?
So I have a friend who started a Substack a year ago, I think, and I was just checking him, and he was, he asked me to do it together and whatever that, and I was just checking it. I'm like, he has like 60K subscribers. I was like, wow,
60K?
yeah. He's like top 20 in the. He writes about history, and another guy, great guy, but he's not like super interesting, and he has like 60K followers. I'm like, holy shit, good for him.
Oh, followers. Okay, I thought you meant subscribers. I was like, holy
subscribers. He has 60K subscribers.
paying subscribers?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe not, but he was like top 20 in the history leaderboard. I was like, wow.
Yeah, dude, when I learned how much like Matt Iglesias and Noah Smith make, it's insane. I want to hear your take about, so there's like the abundance Democrats, right? Which are like, oh, crime is bad and housing is good and rent seeking is bad. And what do you make of these people?
Isn't it kind of dead? Isn't it like 3 years ago? And now Mamdani has completely annihilated him.
Well, they keep doing the thing where they're coping and they're like, it's gonna happen, man. It's gonna be great.
I saw the whole Ezra Klein like shitting the concept that, good luck. But as far as I can tell, the whole thing is, they tried, they lost, and now Mamdani is studying like actual gay race communism, and he's winning, right?
Yeah, I think the thing about the abundance libs that is always very weird to me is like the abundance lib is a guy who's like, I just want good policy, bro. But I would, the meme where it's like, but I would never, ever, ever, ever. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, I just want good policy, but I would never, ever ask the radical people on my wing of the political system to moderate their beliefs in any way or form. It's like, I just want housing. And then Mamdani's like, sorry, man, we need rank control. And it's like, they have no rhetorical tool, right? Like they can't say anything to Mamdani. Like they can't ever be like, you're wrong.
It's like a whole Gaza thing, right? When Israel has become a right-wing fascist country, and all the left-wing Jews in America are like, fuck. And now they're trying to sell like, that we're anti-Semitic, but there's like too many brown Muslims in America now, and like, how do you sell that shit, right?
Well, the thing is, like, they refuse to actually ever combat the more progressive, the more left-wing arm of the Democratic Party.
They can't. Like, they're the muscle. They're like they actually, people are like, Antifa is not the left, they're like extremists and whatever, but, Antifa is like the SS of the Third Reich, right? Then they're not the center, they're not everyone, but,
they're who keep the people in line, right?
Exactly. They are required, like integral part of the system, and when somebody has to give a speech anywhere and you want to stop them, you send the Antifa, right? You send the SS, and they need those.
Yes,
they can't.
When you want to impose like costs, very expensive costs on your opponents, that's what Antifa exists for, right?
Exactly.
Like Antifa exposes like, oh, you want to be Charlie Kirk? Okay, maybe someone just randomly kills you.
Exactly, right? And they need that to work. And Ezra Klein and Iglesias might want like to make money from real estate developers and whatever, and Ezra Klein might want to sell like Israel is actually good, but how do you sell that to the Antifa types? I don't think I can do.
You can't. Well, and the real problem is that like the Ezra Kleins of the world entirely refuse to be like Antifa is bad. They refuse this wholeheartedly. Like they can never say Antifa is bad, right?
They can't. You can't. It's like Hitler going against the SA. I mean, you can push them, right? You can have the night of the long knives and whatever. But
I don't even think he can push them, dude. Like they are surprisingly unpowerful against these people. Shockingly literal leverage against them. I've never seen them be pushed back on meaningfully. Like they even got Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they can. And again, even if they did, again, Mamdani is the star of the scene. He's selling stuff that people actually want, and people want rent control. They don't want abundance.
Do you think AOC is the presidential candidate?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that much about American politics, but it doesn't strike me as that. It doesn't have the gravitas.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was just saying basically that I think AOC is completely debunked because like millennial quirk chungus humor is like AOC, like millennial snark, and like it's just that everybody hates it so much. Like it's polling at like 4% acceptance. And so the idea that they're going to run this, like they already ran it with Harris, who was an even less abrasive version, right? Like Harris actually, you could say what you want about her, but she's less offensive to the people who polarize against Democrats than AOC is.
I think if I was like a Republican guy, I would give so much money to Ilhan Omar, because I do think actually AOC and Mamdani are intelligent and disciplined enough to try to recreate a coalition once they take over from like the Nancy Pelosi's.
I think Ilhan is just pure evil. I think she's like the absolute
I don't think
worst.
she's pure evil. I just don't think she's that smart. She's like just not that smart. But yeah, I think Ilhan Omar is like the most prominent, like very knuckle-headed politician on the left.
Did you see the videos of people coming up to her when like she readjusted her income from like, or I think she readjusted her like disclosed assets from like $30 million down to like 5,000 or something, just like absurdly, blatantly obvious. And like people would come up to her on camera and say like, hey, could you explain like what happened there with the like instant vaporization of like $30 million of wealth, and also how you got it in the first place? Because it's like I think when you first filed, you were disclosing that you were like 50K in debt or something. And she just like, she flips out at them and says like, you're such an idiot. Like, why would you ask me such a stupid question? Like she just gets like really, really obviously nasty and offended. And she did it multiple times. So like, I would just love to see her put in more positions of like duress, really, because she just doesn't appear to have it.
That, and then also the same way the right has a problem where like they don't have any candidates because no one competent right-leaning is like, yeah, government is like a good use of my time.
Associating it with like getting called a Nazi 8 billion times and whatever else will happen.
It's not even that. It's just like, if you're a competent right-winger, like the logical play out of your ideology is like, I just want to be left alone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I talk about this a lot. Like the fantasy of the right-wing guy is like, become a lawyer or do investment banking or something for a few years, make some money, and then fuck off to the middle of nowhere with your wife and have 5 kids, right? And then like the left-wing fantasy is like, go fuck with the school board or something, right? Like go get really involved in like minute local politics.
Exert extreme amounts of control over your like homeowners association.
I mean,
Yes.
It's weird because in a normal country, if you have things like the Republican Party right now is like really split between the MAGA tards, the raw milk, QAnon, like whatever, like low class types, and the Republican establishment, right? Like the business types, and they hate each other. And you know, in a normal country, the business type Republicans, old school establishment types, would join forces with the Ezra Klein abundance Democrats, make a new party, and I'm probably win, right?
They would that party would steamroll. If Ezra Klein could bring himself to say like Muslim culture is not good, or like if Ezra Klein could bring himself to say, and I know that he believes these things in private, like I just know that he does,
Sure he does.
interacted with enough of these people, but there is zero ways that he could ever do that. And then I think the other thing that the business Republicans have understood, or like a significant portion of the business Republicans have actually understood, that like Ezra Klein will watch as like a savage, like eats your children. Like
Yeah.
I think the business Republicans have actually understood this post-pandemic, post-BLM, post-COVID. Like I think this idea has gotten into enough of like the chud, like the gentry of America, if you will, which is like the local maximum, right? Like the guy who has 5 or 6 car dealerships. I think that guy has understood, like, and that's a big part of like Trump's staying power, is like a lot of people don't like Trump for a lot of reasons, many of which are very fair, but it's like Trump wins, and you know that Trump won't go full communism.
Oh yeah,
And that those two things are enough to garner you like
exactly.
30%
So
of the
when
vote.
when in Germany, they had this, they have the hard right, the AfD, and then the left kind of splits between the hardcore commies against the Social Democrats. What happened was that Merkel allied with the Social Democrats, and they made a big pact, and all they did was suppress the edges, right? Like the extremes, the extreme left and the right. That's what a normal country does, right? The whole establishment, old school, like the swamp unites left and right, and when the edges are growing, they start to pushing them out, and they start to pass laws against them, and they censor social media. They do all that. That's what you would expect in America.
I also think AFD is like uniquely very ho-scaring. I don't know enough about German politics to say if it's a mistake, but like AFD is uniquely very ho-scaring.
It's ho-scaring because German hoes are very easy to scare.
That's also true. How have you seen people change in terms of the social dynamics? I think it's weird. I think there was a period 2 or 3 years ago when everyone in like our sphere of the internet was very, very united and like getting along a lot. That's when we met you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good fun.
That was fun. That was a good time at the Urbit meet.
It was good fun, yeah.
That was where I think everyone that
we met so many people. That was like such a culturally intense. We met Delicious Tacos. I met you, Lucas. Dude, I met so many good people at that time.
Tacos were good fun too, yeah.
DT is amazing. He is one of the better episodes on the podcast, actually.
He always is. He's one of those like perennial podcast liquidity guys where if you ever you just need a guaranteed solid episode, invite.
It's nothing like I always say to my friends that if you're not married with kids at 40, you're gay. And then you see DT and he's super cool. But he's like 50 something, right?
Dude, he was deploying some insane cope about like, dude, it's totally fine at 50, bro. And like at first I thought there was like some crazy reason why it was fine. And then halfway through I realized like, oh, this is like a lot of people have like the cope that like keeps them alive. Where like if you don't believe in this thing, you just kill yourself immediately. Like my cope is currently like, it is possible to get married. That is my cope. And like Lucas knows he's not allowed to push me too much on that one, or I will end it, man. Like I will. Like I'll end it, bro.
My cope is like it is possible to be straight. Like that's like my bar now.
You're gonna misunderstand it. Like Lucas wants so desperately to think that like not even marriage, but like the pros on like being with women outweighs the cons in general. Like not even marriage.
I mean, again, if you're living with a woman, you're effectively married. I don't think there's a big difference.
This might actually be really good for Lucas to start believing.
No, I do believe that also. But the problem is, what is the one part of my serious relationships that I consistently complain to you about?
Yeah,
or will you live with
time? They want too much time. Lucas kind of wants to be left alone a lot.
Right. I mean, some women are fine with that. I mean,
yeah, like ones that don't like you, like ones that aren't attracted to you are fine with it. So, okay, I do have a question here. Is like, we've talked a little bit about the IQ shredder and how it's basically just cities are designed to destroy it all. Is the solution is your solution some sort of like remote work, like AI driven software engineering? Like go work out of the city remotely and do some sort of weird arbitrage thing? Or is it just like there is no solution, it's over? Like 10 people will slip through the grates accidentally, but that doesn't matter really, it's over.
Again, my solution for the birth rate is, again, giving privileges to people who have kids. But again, give them privileges like, free parking and,
Is that because that's what's politically viable? Or is that like what you think is best?
Yeah, I mean, of course. If I was like God Emperor of the universe, I would just go full on the women. But
yeah, based.
That's not going to work, right? And so one thing that I think is more plausible and could actually work is give it visual privileges to people, but such that you want the good people who already have kids, right? Instead of having 1 or 2, have 5. While the people who are smoking weed all day and don't want any kids, let them stay having no kids, right? Because you want those genes to disappear, right? It said
Well,
wrong.
the nice thing actually is that all the drugs that the people that we don't want having kids do tend to send your fertility to zero anyway, right? Like it's like weed, like birth control, like all of these, this zero sperm count, right?
I hope so. I don't know. I know plenty of, and I've done plenty of drugs myself, and I'm pretty fertile. But yeah, I mean, if the people who are bragging on Instagram about their child-free lifestyle, dude, do your thing. Keep it that way.
I'm sure you've done plenty of drugs, but you just clearly do not have like weed vibes, man. Like, there's no other way to put it. Like you are a guy who does weed. There are people who are weed people, and there are people who do weed, and these are two entirely different things.
I do not like weed. That is true.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're just like not a drug guy in that way.
I was always very anti-weed, but one guy I met in Lisbon, back when I met you guys, and one of the smartest guys I know, he's a huge pothead. He's like smoking weed all the time.
He's an
Pretty
amazing.
good software engineer.
He's an amazing hardware engineer.
That's fucking. That actually. No, now that I'm thinking.
And I was like,
so.
what? I was like, come on, like.
There's two types of engineers, man. There's the weed engineers and there's the amphetamine engineers. But it's definitely like they bifurcate along that line.
I'm definitely
You instantly know when you meet them.
I have to choose. I'm definitely an amphetamine engineer, but he's a pod engineer, and he's amazing. He's much better than I am. So I still look down on podheads in general, but he's a big
Every
one.
now and then, it is like they do have those examples they can point to of like the genius giga prodigies where they're like, oh, like Steve Jobs smoked weed when he was a kid. Like Obama smoked weed, I bet. But I'm like Obama. And it's like, sure, it is true. Like there are examples of good people or good people, like successful people that smoked weed.
Lucas loves Obama. Latest on the Plausibly episode.
On a serious thing, again, I work remote, and that makes family life much easier. That is true.
Legitimately one of those things where like some women truly don't like if you're not going to the office and like commuting, it's just not work in their mind. And it's it's not only like they will bother you, it's like both like one, they will bother you, two, some of them lose respect, but also three, it's like, why are you not just spending time with me instead of doing work?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
the
but
other
again,
thing that happens is
And I know a lot of like really smart girls that do this too. Like this is like a weird non-IQ dependent understanding axis where you can have like a 145 IQ woman who somehow is unable to rationalize why this disgust happens, but feels it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's a women.
but the big thing here is like women have this idea that like when you're in the office, you're 100% productive, like 100% of the time. And that's just not the way humans work.
exactly.
Like
But it is the
Whatever
reason you want
job
her to
you
think it
do.
works. Like you want her to think it works that way, and thus you should never like.
yes, you need her.
proceed.
You need her to maintain that idea in her head.
But again, I do think that in general, men want, or most men want to work outside, and their wives want them to. And that's a better equilibrium in general.
Well, the wives don't know that they want them to, but they very much.
Yeah, but I was gonna say like the benefit to doing it, even if your wife does actually not give a shit, is like. I'm noticing this now, man. It's like you just have to go to some office-like space to do work, because if you do work from anywhere, if you're too close to where you sleep, it appears that it is just literally impossible to produce anything. You have to like move yourself 20 meters away somehow. Hopefully, like
I don't know. I mean,
100
I know people. I know people who like working in cafes and all that, and they bring a laptop to Starbucks and start working all day. People say it's because they feel the pressure of they're being watched, and they cannot goof off. I'm not like that at all. I can work fine at home. I hate being outside and getting distracted by other people.
Yeah, I really.
Are you like a natural introvert? I assume.
That's just me.
Like,
Me, yeah. I mean, in general, yeah.
so I'm like more extroverted, and I've noticed that it is basically like I am the same way with gyms. Like I cannot have a home gym. I can in theory get a workout done, but it's like I think I just am like psychically powered by all of the other people being around me, and I literally lift like 10% more if I go to even a very shitty gym where there's other people versus like if I try to lift in my basement. I made this like really nice home gym, And I was like, somehow this is worse than like the shitty fucking like garage gym that I went to in the neighborhood, just because there's no other people around. And it's like, I don't even need to talk to them or whatever. They just need to be there. And I think it's the same thing with the office for me. I don't have the energy.
I see that. But again, I think this works even better for women than for men. If you give like big families or you know, mothers of many kids and like visible privileges in society, I think that will go a long way for having people.
I also think that's like politically viable, right? Like, I really think the tax breaks would be huge. Like multiplicative tax breaks would be really big, but I think that's not.
I feel like multiplicative tax breaks are definitely just going to get people in a situation where they create some sort of.
You get reserved parking, you get reserved seats in airplanes, you get seating in the mall that nobody else gets. You get stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
I do think the tax break situation will start having like weird arranged marriages where it's like, because you can't also have like.
No, but it's not about marriage. It's about the kids. You need 3 kids plus.
Well, I'm saying like you'll have like a weird gay marriage adoption scam in order to like decrease your tax burden, right? Like people will start scamming the system in America because there's so many loophole ways that you have to get married.
Again, adoption is it's such a weird thing for me. Like, and again, I'm very Asian in that way that, there's no adoption in Japan, say. It's just nothing.
Because when you think about what it is kind of like, it's very hard to create an adoption program that doesn't also inherently carry some percentage of child trafficking.
It is. It's buying a kid.
I mean, someone who's really against it would say like,
it's all child trafficking. Is the argument against it?
It is buying a kid, and it's a very Christian thing, and there are many wonderful, good adopted parents. But
no, I think it's fine if you have some kind of fertility issue. If you don't have some kind of fertility issue, to be honest, I think it's a little weird.
It is, yeah. It is.
I've never met someone who doesn't have any sort of fertility issue or whatnot and adopts a bunch of kids, and I'm like, yeah, this person's super normal.
Again, if it were up to me, I would, all these legal privileges you get, it would be limited to biological children. Of course, that's much harder.
Not politically viable sign is just like dinging super hard right now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that is true.
The also really big thing here is I do think that this is another one of those ways in which universal suffrage is just totally ridiculous, because the idea that you can have non-parents in society participating in laws does just kind of break the whole thing, because now instantly they just support things that are non-viable or are like abrasive to reproduction, right? And like, if you are a country, like if I am God King of America, I'm like, okay, well, there's a few things that we need in order to remain a country, right? One is we need income. The other is we need kids. We also need a military, right? And the military and the income are kind of tied to each other. So that's like, okay, we need more kids. What do we do to disincentivize people who have no kids? And it's like, you shouldn't let them vote because they will just support policies that are hostile to having more children. And then you have less kids. And then culturally, if they support things that make less people likely to have kids, it's like you have a lower cultural pressure to reproduce in the country. And we know that the number one way, if you want to get people to have kids, like every single girl I know in every friend group, once the first couple has kids, all of them start going baby crazy and saying, I need to have kids now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like there's just obviously a social pressure phenomenon. And so if you take that away, they just never feel it. Like nobody ever feels any urgent need to have kids ever.
Yep. I mean, again, stripping like single people from voting is one thing. But again, we have this huge problem with voting with the boomers, right? There's too many boomers. The boomers always vote. And they always get their way, right? And we have this like class struggle in a way, this generational struggle between the boomers who are voting themselves all this money, right? Look, they're getting boat loan.
Yeah, boat loan communist, like boomer luxury automated communist.
Exactly, yeah. And young people
just let them do everything because they have so much money, and then also when they die, every system in the country is structured such that we just take all of their money and give it to the government. So like, they're just the ultimate privileged class.
And again, of course, young people, I mean, there's one thing. There's the single guy at 40 years old who's smoking weed all the time, right? That guy is, should be enslaved and put to use by the state. But there's a 20-year-old guy who's just not married because, he's just yet too young for that. Yeah. And I wouldn't give him a vote, honestly, but it is true that young people have political needs that should be addressed. And there is some opposition between them and people with families and old people. And I do think a more rational political system would account for that, right? There's this whole Marxist class struggle thing, that was pretty real, or used to be. It probably still is. But there's also generational struggle in many ways, right? And nobody's
I think
actually...
right now that's the big thing. But the problem is it's obviously like clearly the people you want to support are like the young people. The problem is young people just don't vote. They do not vote. Maybe it's like you get a 10% tax break per kid, but only if you show up to vote or something, and you can only have it while they're dependents.
The classic buying vote strategy.
You could make the case. You could make the case like, if in 50 years, 100 years...
Votes, but for my people.
You can make the case that, if civilization goes to hell completely, we actually, everything goes to shit. The birth rate is never fixed. Like public finances collapse. Everything goes to shit. If a historian is writing 500 years later, he'll say that the whole thing went to hell because old people voted themselves too much money. Young people couldn't buy a house, right? They couldn't get married. They couldn't have kids. The boomers brought immigrants to supply labor. That made the situation even worse for young people, and everything went to hell and civilization disappeared. You got to make that case. That it's all because of that one thing. If you had to blame one thing for everything that's bad in today's society, it would be that. It would be boomers.
Which one?
It would be old people like having too much political power.
The problem is that the boomers are like the oldest people that I can remember. So,
right.
It's like they
but again,
the ones.
We talked about this last episode where it's like you mog people in political online arguments by being like, no, things went wrong 50 years before you think they went wrong. Like you just didn't read the thing, man.
Yeah, like we're all out here discussing how we could fix this within like a democratic system, and then Curtis Yarvin is like way over here saying like it was all wrong. We need a monarchy, right? Like we should never have been voting on, and it's like it's obviously more true, but we're trying to cope, right? Like every political discussion falls on this gradient of like this is a thing that I think would work-ish kind of, but like is possible versus like this would fix everything instantly, but it will only work in like a fantasy land of Narnia, right? And so it's like it's almost mental masturbation to even discuss this other thing over here.
So what do you think about Urbit nowadays? Because we met at Urbit Lisbon, so we have to
we have
to talk about Urbit, I guess.
Well, I'm still on Urbit. I still have my group, and it's still going strong. And the ecosystem isn't as big as it used to be, but the same people are still, I would say, 60% of.
How many people would you say are on Urbit nowadays?
On Urbit, I mean, it was always people building Urbit who were just on it, right?
It was always a very small group of people, but all these people count for like 100 normal people. Yes.
Something like that. Yeah, I would say that the amount of developers working on Urbit is about 60% of the peak. So again, declining, but not that bad. And the thing is that we've managed to get AI to understand Urbit. So everyone now is super excited because now you can just tell the AI to make you Urbit stuff. And so development has been accelerating a bit.
So when you say you've managed to get AI to accelerate Urbit, is this like we've made our own custom harness that can like prompt inject enough context about what Urbit is that it works? Or is it like they've actually trained on enough? What is the programming like? It's like Hoon? Is it like you've trained on enough Hoon?
Just
understands.
Eventually Claude and GPT became good enough that they were decent at Hoon. And then people made new harnesses to make it even better, right? Better context and all that. And now it's pretty good.
Huh.
So development has been accelerating. There's a lot of new stuff coming out. And, there were a bunch of really big bottlenecks of speed and performance. And I think these are getting resolved this year.
So do you think that's the problem? I mostly think that the problem is Urbit is more of a marketing problem than the product problem.
I think the product was too bad that even with the best marketing, there was just a bottleneck there, and it just couldn't work. I think if we solve that, and we're in the process of doing that, then you can actually put money on marketing and just put some effort, and then we would have actually something competitive to sell. Of course, the problem is that nobody's in. I mean, the whole idea of the personal server and all that kind of lost a lot of interest when Elon Musk came in, and and the vibe shift, and people stopped getting censored all the time. Because the big sell of Urbit was that everybody was getting banned all the time on social media. So you need your own server to talk to your friends, right?
Yeah.
And then Elon Musk comes in and gives freedom to the people, and so the pressure wasn't there anymore. But of course, Twitter isn't as is going to shift for other reasons, and the vibe shift isn't gonna last forever. So
Yeah.
Trump is old and cranky and more focused on making Israel great again. And the odds are that in 2 or 3 years, the social media starts getting censored again. So I think it's good that Urbit is
Kind of happening again now, actually. Like they've been soft re-ramping censorship of very like tactical accounts in preparation.
Yeah,
for
it is
that.
extremely surgical, but it is clearly happening right now.
Yeah, like they are actually just picking like the smartest and most effective rhetorical outlets on the right wing, and they're just like surgically excising them.
It's to be very fair to them, it's like some level of like triggers the libtards enough, and like is smart enough and does not have enough of a platform that they can like meaningfully fight. Like it's a little bit more complicated than that, but yeah, on the whole, it's basically that.
And even if they don't get banned, the people are getting dogs all the time, and it's still kind of dicey. So again, I wouldn't bet a lot of money on it, but odds are that in a couple of years' time, Orbit is much better and much more usable, and there's actually a competing case that you actually need something.
I think the big bull case for Urbit now could be if like like the entire internet is sort of deeply grasping for another cultural center of things.
Yeah.
Because it's like Twitter died. So anything that can provide that, I think, inherently becomes very interesting, because there's a lot of it's just like wasted effort to post on Twitter now, right? Like I'm now straight up just posting like wholesome Chungus, like soy jack content on this website, because there's no point in writing anything and thinking about it seriously and then posting it to Twitter, because the end result is like either I have to viralify, like slopify it so that it actually gets eyes, right? But then then you just get everyone commenting with some sort of like aggressive misunderstanding of the thing, where now you just have a bunch of angry retards in your replies, or you have to actually make it like good, in which case it literally gets like 72 likes and then
I think it's also just Twitter's whole thing always used to be that you had the in-group boosting, right? And so the in-group boosting created a situation where you were fine, even though there was like normal like sports Twitter or whatever the fuck, it was okay because you could just be in your own little corner and you could be fine, right? Now that's not the case. Like the algorithm just pushes the slop on you so incredibly aggressively that it becomes very difficult to like just do your own thing in the corner.
I mean, my Twitter is like super low effort, and I'm mostly drunk when I post. I'm posting much less than I used to, and yeah, I mean,
I think we all are. Like, I think if all of us look at our like usage graphs, it's like I'll sometimes have a day where I'll just like post like crazy, but for the most part, it's like I actually have to like force myself to even want to post on the website.
Spandrell, you're in China. The last thing, do you have any alpha on China that our viewers can deploy to make themselves money?
I wish, man. That's the thing, right? Like spending money in China is so good. Everything's so cheap. Everything's so
But it's impossible to make money, right?
It's impossible to make money, and that's why the Chinese emigrate, right? Like life is worse in every way when you leave China, but it's much easier to make money. Even with stocks, like I can buy Chinese stocks, right?
They don't go up. They don't go up.
don't.
The company will make more revenue and they will sell more cars and like the margins will, but they will never make money. They never return money to the
It's okay in Hong Kong, right? Like if you buy stocks in Hong Kong, it's okay-ish. They will go up. Like I made money with BID and stuff, but it's nothing like America.
It's very strange. They should start making poly markets for all these companies because like you can't actually make money on the BYD stock. You should just be able to like punt like.
That's so funny. You should be able to like bet on like use Polymarket to make bets on BYD revenue because I know the revenue will go up.
Yeah, I know
the stock price somehow will just continue
necessarily...
crabbing in a 10-year range infinitely, right?
China suppresses the stock market on purpose.
Yeah, they don't let asset prices go up. No, we're super familiar.
We don't want that. There's good reason for that, but it is true that the Western world, especially America, has this amazing gambling culture with all the finance shit, and there's a lot of money to be sucked there if you know how to. So China should really try to suck money from all the American DJ and gamblers.
I think it's actually good for China to do this. Probably
it is.
Why would it not be good? Like, the country should attract capital.
It's harder for capital formation, and like you could argue that there's like
Exactly.
Like you could argue that like shoot, what was the Alibaba's guy's name?
Jack Ma.
Yeah, Jack Ma. Like you could argue like, oh, he might have been an Elon and he might have started like 2 other companies.
Bullshit.
But like that never happened.
He was I mean he was trying to make a fucking DJ bank and he got fucked.
Yeah, exactly. So you could make that argument, right? I think like there is an argument to be made.
They want the money to go to R&D, to better engineering and to better products so they can fuck.
They just want the companies to eat all the surplus. It's the industrial policy, right? It's like don't make profit, just keep selling more, and then like at some point 100 years from now, maybe you
get market share, market share.
Yeah, market share, outcompete everybody, dump resources, like push down the price of the yen. But yeah, prediction market betting on BYD would be great because it's like, I know BYD's cars sold will go up. I know their revenue will go up. Yeah. But they will not ever return that to shareholders.
I mean, crypto was like 60% Chinese, 70% Chinese. A lot of crypto, like the most degen.
Because they were moving money out of China because they were fleeing China.
And what are these people doing now? Like all these degen people making all this super elaborate like crypto stuff. What are they doing now? Because I mean AI is cool, but nobody's making that.
I think a lot of crypto is in the US. I think like it's just a thing where like you're in China and so you see it. I do think there was a lot of like degen Chinese people that don't see like a financial path forward with a normal job to like a life that they want.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of the money was like American money sometimes, or like the money for the interesting companies sometimes was American. Especially at the very beginning. And I think AI just sucked all of SF, all of the, like, it sucked all of it in that direction, which is really weird because China is super competitive in AI. China was actually not that competitive. Like, you think about, like, Chinese crypto projects, it was like Tron and that was it.
Yep.
But
I mean, Binance is Chinese.
That's true. Binance is Chinese.
Bitcoin is Chinese, and a lot of the
Tron.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have the whole blockchain, but they had a lot of these, staking schemes and all the shit. I guess all these people are doing like all these like scam compounds in Cambodia and all the shit.
Yeah.
They pivoted to Roman scams for boomers. That's where the money is.
I can keep going. I assume it's super late for you.
Yeah.
It was great to have you. Lucas, do you want to cut the recording? Do not leave the browser because it uploads a local recording audio, which makes it easier to edit. Because like
before,
if I
Godspeed everyone. It was great. It was great to have you, Spandrell. Thank you to our listeners for slogging it through another. I guess this isn't the longest one, so never mind. We're not thanking you that much. Thank you to our sponsors, Polymarket, Zcash, Passage Press, and Citizen X. Good night. Godspeed, guys.
Godspeed, guys.